how can the Philippines, I mean, with this landscape, with the current landscape and all the disruptions that are happening, um, what is the Philippines doing well, and what is the Philippines, what policies maybe we should put in place to minimize disruption or maximize our opportunities during these disruptions?
Um, that's a very interesting question, Jeff. And you know that I'm really very biased in the family business segment of our economy. And we all know that many of the leaders in this segment, this industry, are really needing a lot of support in terms of how they are able to professionalize their families and also, the family owners, also the business. And we all know that leaders really play a vital role in the rise and fall of any organization. And without really, strong support from, the laws that we have in terms of making them really have good representation as a family business uh, uh, the many laws that we have. For example, if I may cite a case, many family businesses really need support in terms of making sure that the motivations, the philosophies that they have that drive them to really to work harder to grow their business, which is to actually pass that family business or that ownership, multi generationally to their families. And these are things that are not necessarily supported by Philippine laws, and there's no protection in each of these families in business in terms of really acknowledging that they're different. They are not really the same with the others, and that has true meaning and true value of actually giving them support in terms of law. So um, we know that there's chamber of commerce. There's so much of influence that they can do to come up with laws to protect the enterprises, like the micro, small, and medium enterprises. But particularly on family business, I think we need to be able to influence them. That the importance of influence our makers, the importance of really protecting our families in business. This has not yet been done in the Philippines, but this has been successfully, evolved in other progressive countries such as Australia, such as Spain. A lot of these progressive countries are already going down to the level of how they can, protect the core, which is the family, the core of any enterprises, and referring to the family corporation. So how do we protect them is really something that will really fuel more productivity, more economic productivity in that particular sense, so that with the pandemic going, who will survive? We need to help these family business leaders, and as they reset and as they try to revisit their business models and look into their mold of how they actually create their leaders. It is also good to further inspire these leaders that our Philippine government can take care of them and can protect the kind of hard work that they do in order to help our country.
Thank you very much, John. Well, Dr. Winston has a prior engagement, but he will answer this question. So, and he'll have to leave after the question. Doctor?
Uh, may I ask again, Jeffrey? Uh, Jefferson, was the question again?
Well, in this current times and pandemic, as the Philippines as a nation, what are some things that are in place that are good, or some things that we should have in place, like policies, so that we can overcome or maximize these opportunities and these crises?
Okay, okay. Uh, Let me see first. From before I answer that, let me share with you the adverse impact of the quarantines on the Philippine economy. 2018, we significantly improved our poverty incidence from 22% to 17%. That's about 4 to 5 million Filipinos liberated from poverty. But now we're going back to that level. No? We're going back to 20% or even 22% poverty incidents. That means those 4 or 5 million that may have found jobs may have lost them again. Second, the unemployment. No? We in 2019 we had record employment at such a high level, never in our history, only to plunge again in 2020. No? So, with all of these crises, there are several policies that were instituted by government. No? That I think are very good policies, I have to admit. These are policies that will aim to stimulate economic activity. No? For example, additional funds for DOH, no? Providing funds to public hospitals, no? Also the Bayanihan Fund. There is a pending bill that is on the desk of the government, which is the CREATE bill that will lower down the taxes. And recently, there is a bill that will accelerate the selling of distressed assets of banks just in case they want to form a vehicle and dispose it. And also, unlike other countries, unlike the Western countries, Filipinos are very, very obedient. Hindi pasaway. They tend to follow. That's why there's a lot of question why, despite the archipelagic nature of the Philippines, why the transmission rate, infection rate is very low. Well, they cited three reasons. No? One is that we have the Oratio de Imparata. That's one. Second is that we have the government policies in place, and then we all follow. And number three, you won't mind, we have a very good healthcare service. There are many frontliners there in the medical care who are willing to take care of the sick people. So they are heroes that we have. So I think after this pandemic, maybe after the lockdown, which for me, 2021 will still be very dismal, which will start, I think, in 2022 when we will see the economy start roaring back again. I think starting on the first half of 2022. There you will see again consumption resurging. No? Usually that's the first one that will surge, no? When we start opening up again more and more of the business enterprises. So that's what I would like to share in terms of the positive things that we have. And I suppose in terms of the marathon, in terms of nations that will recover relatively fast and on a longer term basis, the Philippines is one of them. We have a huge domestic population that can just stimulate our economy when the right time comes. Thank you so much. Thank you, John, for inviting me. I really have to go for another meeting. And I also like to thank the participants for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Panuhinong. All right. So he has to leave, but let's hear from Doc Rene for your inputs about the question.
Uh, okay, so I have to say that I will not be very specific with an answer. Maybe my answer will be vague. As I have said earlier, I am currently based in Abu Dhabi, and so I am familiar with how the United Arab Emirates is responding to the pandemic. And I listened to the news from TFC about what's happening in the Philippines and how the Philippines is responding to the pandemic. I am not an expert in governance, so I'm a little bit nervous about my response. I don't want to make a commentary also because I might not, you might not like what I will say. but let me answer that question from a more theoretical perspective. I think that times of change require a certain responsiveness. If organizations or countries, for that matter, are able to respond faster when they are able, when their laws or policies allow them to. So my point is that there's a we it's a system. It's a system. It's a system. When you look at a country as a system, when you look at an organization as a system, you realize that when you create rules or when you create policies, when you establish policies, they are supposed to serve the purpose of a strategy of the organization or the strategy of a country. And they have to be looked at as a system, systemically, because when you change one part of it, there will be a corresponding effect on the whole. This is vague, but Sench, there's a book by Sench. He focused on systems thinking, and I would like to wish that we can have a more systemic view of governance, so that when policies are created, they consider the impact of such a policy on the whole system, so that instead of just creating policies for the sake of, when you solve one problem, and without really deliberating on the solution, it can actually result to even worse problems for the whole system. So that's uh, yeah. But I think that I'd like to share the optimism of Dr. Winston, that eventually, of course, the Philippines is going to overcome, even if it is slower than how the United Arab Emirates is responding to the change here.